breathing into Adam of his spirit, he had to give him the knowledge of how to do what he asked him to do. If Adam was to dress the garden, he needed the knowledge of how to cultivate what he had been given. So the gift of God to man is earth, and also the knowledge of how to dress it, and the fowl and the cattle that are on that land teaches us that the second profession after farming is animal husbandry. The point that we are making is that the first profession as the basic support for all labor and all divisions of human labor is the labor of tilling the ground, farming, feeding oneself, and taking care of the gift of animals that the Creator has given for the benefit of man. So farming and animal husbandry are the first professions and are the engine of every nation. What makes one a slave? One of the things that the black codes and the slave codes did to black people was that we had no right to own land. Blacks were prohibited from buying or renting farmland except in designated all black but white-controlled areas. Black people were forbidden to sell farm products like flour, cotton, hay, rice, peas, wheat, etc., without written permission from a white man, thus disallowing independent black agribusiness and eliminating the potential threat of black competition in farming. From 1865, the time of emancipation, to 1910, blacks had risen from slavery, where we owned nothing, to acquiring 16 million acres of land, mostly in the South. However, increased debt load, plus a rash of lynching over the 30-year period from 1890 to 1920, effectively drove millions of blacks off their land in the South into the ghettos of the North to work for the Northern industrialists. As of this broadcast, black farmers own less than 4 million acres of land, a 75% decrease of what we were able to amass by 1910, 45 years after slavery. We own 16 million acres of land, and since ownership of land is the basis of independence, then there had to have been a scheme to deprive black people not only of the land, but to destroy in us the desire for land or even to work the land. One of these schemes was the sharecropping system that blacks had to endure to work their land after the time of emancipation and Reconstruction. In this system of sharecropping, all the sharecropper brought to the arrangement was his labor. The planter provided the land, animals, equipment, seeds, and other items. The landowners also commonly advanced credits for the farmer's living expenses until the crop was harvested. The system was open to considerable abuse because the sharecroppers, for the most part, were uneducated, commonly illiterate, as it had been illegal to teach slaves to read. The landowner marketed the crop and kept all accounts. He charged interest on cash advances, often quite high interest. He also commonly operated a store where the sharecroppers had to make their purchases. The normal arrangement was that the sharecropper got half the proceeds from the harvest, but the landowner then deducted cash advances, which, because of high interest and dishonest accounting, commonly left the sharecropper with very little or even in debt. So here we are in the 21st century, and 75 to 80% of what we once owned, we don't have. We are more dependent now than ever on someone else to feed, clothe, and shelter us. In 1970, out of the $75 billion that Americans spent on food, over half, $40 billion, went directly to the farmers. However, by 1998, Americans spent over $450 billion on food, but the farmer only received just over $100 billion for the raw product that went into the food, a loss of 75% of what the farmer used to make. The American people began to eat less self-prepared food at home and more processed food or restaurant meals. So in 1998, $100 billion of Americans' total food budget went to the fast food industry. The result has been a reduction in the overall health of Americans in general and black people in particular. Most health specialists agree that the loss of the health of black people is directly related to the foods we consume. The loss of access to the land has resulted in a loss of health and non-growth in wealth for the masses of black people. In 1866, 1 year after slavery, the Southern Homestead Act was passed, which gave 160 to 640 acres of land to white immigrants, including many members of the Jewish community coming from the Alsace region of France and Eastern Europe. These immigrants helped to settle 46 million acres of public domain land. At the same time, blacks in the South were denied our promised 40 acres and a mule, and we were not even allowed to purchase land in many of the western frontier states. In this monumental book by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Message to the Black Man in America, he wrote an article titled, Help Self. What must be done with the so-called Negroes? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote, quote, in order to start doing for ourselves, we must start with the acquisition. Many of us who pursue a profession in life never give a second thought to the fact that farming
Greetings, listeners. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is but one God. Welcome to the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM. I am Brother David Muhammad, and I'm going to be in studio with you, inshallah, up to 9 o'clock this morning. And in a short while from now, I will open up the telephone lines and take your calls on 342-0081 and 466-5391, and you can send WhatsApp messages directly to me on 332-0214, and as well you can go to the social media pages of the Street 919 FM and you can follow what's happening in studio. So we have an interesting program lined up for you. This has been another great week in Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, 1 week after the emancipation celebrations, back out into the public after the 2-year pandemic and the restrictions, etc., etc. Of course, at the Kwame Ture Center, we also had our emancipation lecture last week. It went so well. And this week, we have part 2 of emancipation or liberation, from emancipation to liberation. And trust me, this one is going to be even more intense than last one. So tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock at the Kwame Ture Center, we're doing part 2 to the subject. And one of the things we're going to go deep into, we're going to look at, as one of the several topics we're going to touch, where we're going to look at apartheid South Africa and really how it worked and how there could have been such a tiny minority of white people in total control of a huge majority of black people. How could a tiny handful of white people in South Africa take over the government, take over the police, take over the military, take over the treasury, control the economy, and have the majority, tens of millions, the majority of Africans unable to go to the same restaurants, the same hotels, travel on the same buses, on the same trains, to gather in the same places as white people, and for the police to come in, kill the children, as what happened in the Sharpeville massacre in 1963, just killing people, beating people, shooting people at will. How did a tiny minority, handful of white people who were English and Dutch in origin control tens of millions of black people for so long? Remember, this only officially ended in, you could say, 1993. How did that happen? Well, that's one of the main subjects that we're going to address academically. We're going to look at it psychologically, how a system like that could have worked back then, and if anything similar is working on us today. Because apartheid in South Africa was something that the whole world was looking at. The whole world was looking at it. And, of course, you have the CIA documents from America that wanted to manage how the messages go out, because they said the black leadership in America, if they become too sympathetic to the blacks under apartheid in South Africa, it could affect our business. It could affect trade. It could affect, in particular, the jewelry industry, the diamonds. So they had to be very delicate about managing and censoring the conversation. But that happened. But how did it happen? So I'm inviting you out tomorrow morning to the Kwame Ture Center for 11 o'clock. It's going to be an eye-opening presentation. Trust me on that. Yesterday or day before, the government in Israel, they killed 10 Palestinians, just like that. They said there was a threat. Someone issued some threat. Some group or organization that they branded as a terrorist just said something. Oh, these Israelis, so-and-so, we're going to bomb them, whatever. And they indiscriminately killed 10 innocent civilians. I think they shot several more, children included. Now remember, the whole world is hearing all this on the news. And there will be some point in the future, be it 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years from now, that all of those who are bystanders on these kinds of things would lift their voices in condemnation and say, oh, that's so terrible, what happened? But somehow the pain of the Jewish Holocaust is the only one that lingers on. And all of us feel that pain, even though we as a people had much more traumatic experiences in our history. Now, I want to say happy Independence Day to Jamaica. So today, Jamaica celebrates 60 years of independence. And the conversation is also in wide circulation right now about Jamaica becoming a republic by the year 2025. And this is what I have been invited over to Jamaica in a couple of weeks from now to do a couple of presentations on. I've already done some radio interviews over there on that. But in order to achieve these things, there has to be a consciousness, a national consciousness. It's not just a government policy. It's the same thing with reparations. In order for that to happen, and it will happen eventually, but in order for that to take place, it cannot just be members of parliament in England, France, Spain, Holland, Portugal, and members of parliament over here or heads of government having this dialogue. No way. The consciousness has to come up out of the grassroots. Now, let me say this. We have to, as a people, African people, resist the temptation to live like crabs in a barrel. Every time emancipation comes around, and I'm sure other ethnicities observe us, it's as if we cannot have a proper emancipation celebration without us condemning us. We always find some other African somewhere to pull down for emancipation. We cannot have, African people, a conversation on politics without us pulling down us. It's like our purpose would not be complete, some of us, unless we make an effort to destroy some of the rest of us. And I am certain other ethnic groups as bystanders look at us and say to each other, look at them. I doubt very much, that when the Jewish Holocaust Memorial Day comes around and the Jewish community, and remember, they get the whole world to stop and respect what happened to them. There are no limitations on that. Governments everywhere have to pay homage, pay tribute to the Jews who died in the Holocaust. But I doubt it very seriously that when the time for the Jewish memorial comes around, that it's a case of Jews attacking Jews. That Jews who lift their voices, Jews who speak on television, Jews who speak on the radio, have as their number one obsession attacking other Jews, bringing down other Jews, talking negatively about other Jews. I doubt it. But here we are, emancipation, and some of us, all we can do is speak negatively about other Africans. We're the ones who went through the African Holocaust and are commemorating those stages of the struggle, the resistance, the uprisings, the rebellions on the slave plantations until it led to abolition and emancipation. Then we went through a colonial era. And we have had an enemy from way back then all the way up to today. But we divert our attention away from that enemy onto each other, conjuring up that cliche that many of us say, that we have become our own worst enemies. And I am certain that there are those on the outside who would elbow each other and say, look at them. They are commemorating their struggle, their history, their enslavement, and their freedom. But they're still destroying each other. They're not even focusing on us who are exploiting them. Have a conversation about politics. And as one, even though Trinidad is a multicultural, cosmopolitan, multi-ethnic society, it's one group of Africans targeting and trying to destroy another group of Africans. You think others don't notice that? I am sure that when the Indian people's Indian Arrival Day or Diwali comes around, that no way would they make it their top priority for Indians to attack other Indians. There was the Chinese bicentennial under Prime Minister Patrick Manning back in 2006, where Trinidad and Tobago acknowledged and celebrated the arrival of the Chinese community in October 2006, and that was a public holiday. How many of you remember that? That in October 2006, there was a public holiday in Trinidad, a public holiday for the Chinese community. That was a national holiday. And there were even discussions as to whether or not, and this decision taken by Mr. Manning, Prime Minister at the time, whether or not this holiday should be every year. I think it was October the 12th. Should we now include on our national calendar a holiday? Because they said we have August 1st for the Africans and May 30th for the Indians. So we're going to have October the 12th for the Chinese. And they were discussing in Parliament, should we have a whole separate holiday for them, or should it only be this year, 2006? Back then, they discussed it and they debated it and they decided, well, Trinidad and Tobago, we have, I think it's 14 public holidays, which is a lot, so we'll only do it this year, which was 2006. So when 2007 came around, okay, there wasn't any public holiday, but there was still the acknowledgement, the commemoration, the memorial in the history of the Chinese coming here, etc., etc., etc. But my point is, beloved, that when the Chinese bicentennial celebration comes around, it's not a case of one group of Chinese attacking another group of Chinese, one group of Chinese plotting to bring down another group of Chinese, one group of Chinese targeting other Chinese. well know. But Africans, on the heels of an emancipation celebration, so many of us are of that mentality. This is my time to show how much I hate myself, to demonstrate how much I hate my own African people just like me. And so many of us are performing for others to show how proficient we can be in the hatred of our own. Okay, we understand the psychology behind it. We understand the damage that has been done to us mentally through that traumatic Holocaust. All right, so this morning, I am here to appeal to us to try to resist that. To overcome that urge to be a participant in bringing down our own people. It comes across sometimes like it's some kind of desire, that it brings us some kind of comfort or gives us a sense of achievement. Look, Master, look at what I posted on Facebook. Look, Master, look at what I said on the radio. Look at what I put up on social media. See how I can be a traitor to my own people for your benefit, Master? Look at me, Master. Aren't you proud of me, Master? Oh, and even though we might not be saying it word for word, with those words, our actions are speaking so loud. And it's a shame, beloved. So our 60th celebration of independence is right around the corner. And we are about to celebrate with our national colors, with our national anthem, with our watchwords. We're about to indulge in this great heartwarming practice. But I say to us that the basis for independence, if you want to celebrate independence, you have to start talking about land. You have to start talking about land ownership. This morning at the Kwame Ture Center for the George Padmore Boys Academy, this is session number 9. Last week we did part 2 of the self-defense seminar. Oh, it was great. We've really had a good month. I must say, the last 4 weeks have been fantastic at the center. Last week we did part 2 of the self-defense. Today, this morning, 10 o'clock, we are dealing with farming. We put all the boys into 4 groups, 4 teams, and we are each planting food this morning. There's going to be a teaching session first, explaining the importance of this. Then we're going to go outside on the land area and plant our own food. Next week, we're having session number 10. We're going to do a review of the whole course, and we're going to have a special meal for the boys. And we're going to give them a proper meal. Start off with a salad. Then we're going to serve them a bowl of soup. Then we're going to give them the main course. Good food. Well done rice. Well cooked sauteed garlic potatoes. Well cooked vegetables. The peas or the beans. The fish. The chicken. The different... then we're going to serve them the dessert and ensure as well that everyone has something to take home. But a major part of that message, you see, everything is a teaching, beloved. Next week, we want to ensure that some of the food that we serve is some of the food that we grew ourselves. Or that we have, for example, we have a brother who does eggs, produces eggs, Brother Alvin. And I mean, it's the best quality eggs you can find anywhere. We have grown pigeon peas, breadfruit, green figs, melon gen, cucumbers, okras. I mean, this is just the stuff that I know about off the top of my head. The brothers who are doing these projects, growing our own food, but more importantly, teaching the culture of agriculture. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, for the ex-slave, land ownership is the basis of independence and the pathway to wealth. And after slavery was over, what caused them to keep us in a perpetual state of slavery was to ensure that we did not become land owners. You had the British slave codes, the French slave codes noir, the Spanish slave codes, the Dutch slave codes. What is a code? A code is like a secret medium of communication between individuals who are among other individuals, but those who are using the code are mindful and knowledgeable of a special system of exchange of communication that the others around them do not know about. And the slave codes, meaning they didn't have to tell you about it, but they among themselves knew it. And the main universal factor, no matter who it was, who was controlling the slavery, was that we must make sure that these people do not own land. We have to make sure that they never become land owners. So we have in the Caribbean Development Bank, which, according to its website, seeks to develop the agriculture sector in borrowing member countries. And in 2017, they upgraded their policy and began to seriously look at agriculture for all these Caribbean economies, because energy is changing. So many of the first world countries are trying to desist from burning fossil fuels and to move towards alternative energy resources: wind, solar, tidal, geothermal, biomass. And also, you will notice that there are these attempts to, even though you cannot reproduce our climate in a cold country, well, you can to a limited degree, but not to the extent that they would like to. So in all of these countries, they're trying to reproduce tourist environments Or America has the United States Virgin Islands. Britain has the British Virgin Islands. Places like Turks and Caicos, Cayman, Bermuda, St. John, St. Croix, St. Thomas, Aruba, Curacao. None of those countries that I just named are independent. None of them. They're all overseas territories. Martinique, Guadeloupe. So a lot of these first world countries are trying to link their priority tourism options to these places. So now we have no choice but to begin to look towards agriculture. And the Caribbean Development Bank noted that growth in agricultural productivity has been slow, and the sector suffers from high trade costs and a low capacity to comply with modern food safety and quality standards. They say, consequently, the agriculture sector has been unable to adequately respond to rapidly growing demand for high-standard agri-food products from the tourism, processing, and retailing sectors in and outside the region. Instead, the growing demand in these sectors in the region is mainly fulfilled by imports. We have better soil, better climate, better agricultural potential, but we are importing food from places that have worse land, worse climate than us, worse soil than us, but better management. And who's going to suffer? Us. They note agriculture can be an important source of economic growth and a key contributor to poverty reduction, particularly for households that benefit less from growth in other sectors. When we had the 19th anniversary of the Million Man March in Jamaica back in 2014, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, quote, "Why are we importing so much food in the Caribbean when we have so much arable land? We can and must grow our own food." Then Minister Farrakhan said, "Economic hitmen study our weaknesses and strengths and offer to elevate our economic status in exchange for falling into unmanageable debt. Conditions include food prices going up and the currency values going down." Last week on this program, I said at the beginning of the program, we are patiently waiting for the price of bread and the price of flour to go back down. Why? Because when the price of flour increased by 38% just the other day, the government announced to us that, well, the reason for this is because of the war over there between Russia and Ukraine. But it was last week, Saturday. It was about 2 days before that. 9 days now. In spite of the fact that the war is still going on, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine still exists, but both governments met through their representatives and agreed to end the blockade of the wheat and the grain that has been stored up, from what I understand, since last year, July. And this storage that they had, which was blockaded earlier this year, that they've agreed, okay, yes, we still disagree on the land distribution. Yes, we still want to take over your country, or we want to defend ourselves. Yes, all that conflict is still in existence, but the food issue we're resolving now, and the grain, the blockades are over. So, well, maybe we'll see it on the front page of the news, maybe tomorrow or Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever it is. But someone's controlling these food prices in a very wicked and unscrupulous way. So the minister said these economic hit men, they look at us, the value of the currency goes down, the prices of the food goes up, the country becomes more unstable. Agriculture can contribute to overcoming major socioeconomic and environmental challenges in the Caribbean region, including food and nutrition insecurity, obesity, youth unemployment, gender inequality, the unsustainable use of natural resources, and climate change. Historically, agriculture has played a central role in the Caribbean economies. Large plantations of especially sugar and bananas produced agricultural commodities for exports, and they represented an important sector of the economy. But in several countries in the Caribbean today, especially among the islands, such as the Cayman Islands, the Agricultural Development Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank says agriculture represents less than 1% of GDP. Less than 1%. Now you're talking about food security, and the more food security that there is, the more national security that there will be. But you're also talking about employment. And you're talking about an ownership that is self-empowering. The bank says economic growth is the most powerful instrument for reducing poverty and undernutrition and for improving the quality of life in Caribbean countries. Now, with this reality, you have those who are in control of agriculture, but more importantly than that, you have those who are in control of the secondary industries, manufacturing. Minister Farrakhan said, manufacturing is the bedrock of independence. Think about it. Land is the basis of independence. That's primary production. But manufacturing is the bedrock of independence. That is secondary production. A high proportion, the Caribbean Development Bank says, a high proportion of imported food is calorie dense, high in fat, and high in sugar. As these products are affordable, more affordable than healthier alternatives, poorer households are more likely to make unhealthy nutritional choices, which lead to increased obesity levels. Now, oh man, and it's not entirely true to say that the healthier choices are more expensive. In some cases, yes, but not generally. So let me say to you now, I'm feeling very happy about this. So I am currently fasting. I'm on the 3-day fast. So I had a meal on Thursday evening. And my next meal will be on Sunday. No food for 3 days. No food for 72 hours. So from Thursday evening to now, Saturday morning, I've just had 1 cup of coffee. Inshallah, today, I'll have another cup of coffee. Now, there are a lot of these remedies and herbs and vitamins and tablets and purifiers and blood thinners that we take and that we talk about. All of that is good. But you see, fasting for 3 days, no food at all. No food at all. And this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught us in that great and illuminating book, how to eat to live. He said we should eat 1 meal a day and fast at least once a month for 3 days. And it's the first Thursday to the first Sunday in the month, every month. Now, I admit I haven't done this in a while, but it feels so great. But it's part of a whole lifestyle. The purification that I would experience from this, if I had to pay some medical professional or even a herbalist to treat me in such a way to cleanse me out or purify my bloodstream or whatever, it would have costed some serious money. But just fasting and praying, not praying for a mystery God to drop bread out of the sky, but praying for the willpower, the strength, the ability to be an instrument of that same change that you're praying for. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, get down and say your prayers, black man and black woman, but when you're finished, get up and go and answer them, because when you pray, give us this day our daily bread, there is no mystery God that is going to come and knock on your door and give that bread to you. You have to get up and work. And in order to work, you must have a task. And in order to successfully complete a task, you must have a plan. And in order to have a plan, you have to have a vision. And in order to have a vision, there must be a mission. In order to complete that mission, you must have aims, goals, and objectives. You have to be organized in your thinking. But then again, if our thinking is clouded and polluted and consumed by distractions and provocations, then we'll be led astray right back down into the dump in that old, as we say in the Nation of Islam, that slavery teaching and that slavery thinking, that as black people we can sit down, do nothing, complain and fuss and argue and quarrel, and then when we're finished, complain again, then fuss again, then argue again, and then quarrel again, and stab each other in the back and bring each other down and live like crabs in a barrel. No, black people, we have to get up and take control of our destiny, because I'm telling you, those puppet masters on the outside are observing us and constantly saying to themselves, look at them. Look at how they're dealing with each other. Look at how they're treating each other. We can use them, and we can get them to bring each other down so that we don't have to do it ourselves. Let's wake up and think, beloved. All right, so I'm going to come back in the second hour. We're going to open up the phone lines. We're going to talk about these and other things, so stay with us. Don't go away.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
Something special. upside down. Take my words and you make a song. Take my short and you make it long. Keep my feet firmly on the ground. When I'm weak, yeah, you make me strong. So for you now, I sing this song. Everybody hands up and sing it with me. We are something special, hey. Very special, hey. Something special, hey. Hey, hey. We are something special, hey. Very special, hey. Something special, hey. Hey. See when I tell you, roll down. See when I tell you, roll down. See when I tell you, roll down. Hey, hey. Very special, no doubt. See when I tell you, roll down. See when I tell you, roll down. Where we going, where we going, where we going? We up and down, we all around. We going country, we going down. We going east, we going west. You know we friendship, it is the best. We up and down, we all around. We going country, we going down. We going down to the ground, 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 to the ground. We are something special, hey. Very special, hey. Something special, hey. Hey, hey. We are something special, hey. Very special, hey. Something special, hey. Hey. See when I tell you, roll down. See when I tell you, roll down. See when I tell you, roll down. Hey, hey. Very special, no doubt. See when I tell you, roll down. See when I tell you, roll down. Hey, hey, hey. When I tell you, I tell you. I say what I tell you when I tell you. I mean it. I tell you when I tell you what I tell you when I tell you. I mean it. I telling you what I tell you when I tell you when I tell you what I tell you. I mean it.
Looking for a safe and relaxed professional massage therapist and nutritionist? Look no further. Nature's Touch with Empress Judy and Associates offers a natural approach to better health. Treat yourself to a professional massage therapy and nutrition advice in a safe and relaxed atmosphere. Rejuvenate your body, mind, and soul at Nature's Touch Therapy. For an appointment, please call or WhatsApp 1-868-398-8282 or visit our Facebook page. Remember, your health is our responsibility at Nature's Touch.
Better vision for your physical eyes, and through the eyes of faith, let healing arise in your mind, body, and spirit. At Natural Heal Ministries, we teach kingdom principles for living that brings the blessing of God to your mind, body, and soul.
NHM Professional Associates are located at number 10 Moody Stewart Street, Monrepos, San Fernando. For more info, contact Dr. Desmond Phillip at NHM on 349-3494.
NHM Professional Associates can be heard live on the Street 919 FM every Saturday from 9:05 to 9:55 a.m.
Blessings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast heard every Monday from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning on the Street 919 FM radio. Hear my mom, Pastor Helen Garcia, and myself, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the Word of God to the elderly, youth, and children. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. The church is located at 26 Prince Street in Port of Spain. We look forward to you joining us. God bless you.
As my life I lay it on the altar, as my life.
In Trinidad and Tobago, there are so many things to talk about. Social issues, injustice, child abuse, domestic violence, political scandals, and much more. On HOTP, we will cover all that and much more. Don't forget, you can catch us every Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday nights from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Facebook and Instagram. Hot off the press. Hot topics, no filter.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory.
Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen.
So there's a need for brotherhood.
Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen. Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen.
Brotherhood is demanded.
Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory. Brotherhood is essential, it is urgent, and it is compulsory. But the time demands brotherhood. Whenever the dominant white society fears for its economic future, racial tensions are always aggravated. The aim of Almighty God is to bring the black man and woman together. The aim of Almighty God is that we, no matter how divided we have been in the past, must experience unity in order to gain the success that we seek and the progress that we desire. There is no way that a divided people can build a future. Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. So there's a need for brotherhood. But if you walk the earth proud and arrogant, you never learn your lesson because you think you already know. And how in the hell could you know and be in the shape that we're in? How can there be any brotherhood if there's not even the honoring of a word?
Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen. Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen. Black man, get up. Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen.
But the Quran and the Bible bear witness that the heavens and the earth were created with truth.
Black man, stand up. Black man, you better listen.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory. Brotherhood is essential. It is urgent and it is compulsory. I feel that every man that wants to speak should have the right. And if you think you know it better, get on up and get on and do the job. But if you don't know what to do, and all your mouth is able to do is condemn and criticize, but you have no works to show the rightness of your philosophical adherence, then maybe you should rethink your position.
Welcome back and welcome to the second hour of the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM. We're going up to 9 o'clock and we are about to start taking your calls on 342-0081 and 466-5391. Remember, tomorrow morning at the Kwame Ture Center, 11 o'clock, I'm doing part 2 to our emancipation lecture from last week, and this one is going to be inshallah, even heavier. And one of the subjects that we're going to explore, and again, we're doing an audio-visual presentation. One of the topics that we will be exploring is how a tiny white minority in South Africa were able to impose apartheid on tens of millions of black people. How a tiny minority of whites were able to take control of the government, take control of the military, take control of the police, take control of the treasury, the economy, and put the blacks in townships, run down ghettos, arbitrarily kill them in the street, as with the Sharpeville massacre in 1963. The children came out protesting against the educational curriculum and some of the things that they were teaching, and that they wanted to force a European language on African children. The children came out in the street to protest that, and they were sprayed down by the police. Now, I remember when I was going to school, if I remember correctly, it would have been primary school, and this is like the early 1980s, okay? This would have been 1980 itself, or 81. But I remember after Common Entrance was over, SCA, we went on a school outing. And we went to that place that is now, I'm not 100% sure what's there right now, but I think it's the Zen nightclub that used to be the Deluxe Cinema. We went there to see the movie Cry Freedom, which was about the Sharpeville massacre, centered around the life of Steve Biko. Imagine, I was 10 years old when we went on a school outing to Deluxe Cinema to see the movie about the Sharpeville massacre. And, you know, it was years later that I reflected on, you know, who would have made that decision to take the children to see that. And as eye-opening as it was, why didn't I have other primary school experiences that would have enlightened me in similar ways to similar matters? Because it was just that one film, and that was it as far as school outings were concerned. But I'd love to know who it was who made that decision. I don't think all schools went. But, it was brilliant. Brilliant. All right, so tomorrow morning, Kwame Ture Center, 11 o'clock. And, like I said, it's gonna be heavy. That is a science that the world has not come to terms with as yet. All right, so let's go to the phone lines. 342-0081 and 466-5391. Caller, good morning.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
Hakeem Mohammed, my brother.
How you doing?
You went up the same street I am on this morning, man. But before I go there, I want to say something. I heard a brother, Ferguson. He does that African studies. I don't know if you're a professor or what's from you. Last year he said something. He said that stooping is an African woman thing. It belongs to the Yoruba people and another set of people. I didn't get the other set of people he spoke about. He says stooping is a form of rejection and disgust. So I met an ex-teacher when we were speaking about that same stooping. And when we started getting it, he said stooping, it paused everything. When you stoop, you walk away. Mm-hmm. You don't go and get a cutlass and come back, or you don't start a curse. You two are speaking to you, you don't understand what they say, you're stoops. You don't stoops anymore. You go for a cutlass or a gun, you peel some bottle and lick it up. Stoops in Paul, and that's an African woman in Yoruba, and somebody say, what do you understand? You don't hear stoops in again, we hear the gun and the cutlass, and the bottle and this sort of thing. Remember, that's an African culture, you know. What is African, you know? No, I want to go into something. A question was asked on another frequency concerning the changing of the name. And it's the most ignorant thing. You see, some people do things to get, what do you call it, for their programs, to get listenership, to make money, without even thinking. You are asking a question about changing a Piccadilly and Shakon and all these criminals, these murderers who have slaughtered, you understand, rape our ancestors, and they beat them and have us up to today in this state that we are in, this ignorant state, you understand? And you're asking people whether the name should be changed. What you think about that? People who don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know what they're speaking about, you know, because they never learned it in history. They're in no books. You're never going to know. And you asking them, what do you expect to get? Not an ignorant answer? From that, I say, well, yes, people will do anything for money. You understand? And then another thing. I said over and over, about 15 states in America, about 3 months ago, have removed the laws that banned African people from wearing their hair in their own hairstyle. And England has done it just the other day. There was a law preventing our people from wearing their hair in their own hairstyle. That is why they started to click it and press it and put grease in it. And listen, because you couldn't wear it that way. And to hear people coming now, because Augustine said that he objected against teachers or principals for telling children don't wear their hair as they are wearing in their style. And to make a comment about that, Brother David, emancipation time, to talk about that in such an ignorant manner, because it means that you don't even understand what it is going on. Because our hair, the only hair, everything with life, I've said over and over, goes up. Nothing with life goes down. The only hair on this planet Earth that grow up is African people here. Everybody else here grow down. Nothing with life goes down. It's dead. You understand? And you come in to make a comment about that. At the time of emancipation, you see, a brother said something. They walk and they talk as Africans, you understand? But they are not African. They only walk and talk and make you feel. And they are the shape of Africans, but they're not African. Because if you could tell me, you wait every time this period come around to show such negative things concerning your people and your race, you don't know what we went through. If you don't understand your mind of the enemy, you're in trouble, you know. The minds of the Europeans never change, you know. It moved from those who started it on to the generations, you know. And the generations have continued this thing, you know. But all these organizations that they put in place, United Nations, and they put those things there to keep us in check. You have to study the minds of the enemy. You have to think way ahead of him, because that is what they have done. They have us in this state and we can't see it. Like I said one about the brothers that they had beaten this African on the ground. 2 of them hold him and beat him, and the white man stand up there and watching them, and they have to do it because he will kill them. But to him, the bad ones are those that are the man that is beating him, not the man that have them beating him. Our people in a state, Brother David, and the ignorant things that you hear people coming out with. You just start up something on you and hear them. They don't read. They don't look for information. They don't understand what is going on. They don't understand how great we are and how they have us. They have us today in this state. They look at the Jews and you understand? You can't say nothing about them. Nothing you can say about the Jews, and they didn't go through nothing like what all prevention. It's millions of Africans died on that middle party. They put things around your neck so you couldn't run away. You understand? You're going through the bush, they would hold you. You know, they said in Antigua, they paid $600, 600 pounds of sugar for a dead slave and 1,000 pounds for one when they run away. These are history. You have to understand our history. If you don't understand that, you'll always live in ignorance. But troops in. Start its troops, it will keep you out of trouble. Have a nice day, my brother.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, caller.
Good morning to you, Brother Mohammed.
Good morning.
Let's say good morning to your listeners at this time.
Not hearing you very clearly.
Are you hearing me clear now?
Much better right now, yeah.
Yes, sir. So that Mr. Good morning to you once again, and good morning to your listeners at this good time.
All right, you need to speak like how you were speaking when you asked if I'm hearing you clearly.
Okay, Brother Mommy, you can hear me. Let me see by starting out that I am so disappointed today because while we celebrate emancipation and we walk and we parade ourselves as African people, our young African youth still killing themselves. And Brother Mohammed, I want to be frank, man. What take place day, Emancipation Day, I did not like it at all. Because the main issue, what the speakers who went down by the surgery to speak on Emancipation Day, they didn't deal with the issue. Because Duke Street, Picton Street, yes, it's an issue. But our main disease today, that young African youth is getting killed in the heart of the city. Every single day is a next murder in the city. And to know that none of these leaders who was there celebrating emancipation in talk about that, nothing about that. I want to ask the king of soca, Marshall Montano, as he get the keys to the city, that if he is not concerned because he's ambassador and he's flying our flag high, if he is concerned that our city is exposed for criminals and killers, I want to know. Because if nobody in care about the young African youth, because they're bringing all kind of press conference yesterday to deal with WASA and to come with all kind of plans and policy to stop people from sabotaging the WASA pump. It's all going well. But our capital is exposed for criminals and killers today. No tourists ain't want to come to our capital. This can't take place in the United States of America. This can't even just take place in Russia, but it's taking place in Trinidad and Tobago. That nowhere, no prime minister, no president, no leader will allow their capital to be under siege by exposed for killers and these kind of things. And I am real concerned, Brother Mohammed, because of issues of this and that, because it's very sad. And when you could see that people trying to influence, is you hear, brother? Yeah, man, Shank. When people trying to influence, and because we speak about Pan is African, we speak about other things in this country is African, but the African community, as I said, no leader, no prime minister, Brother Mohammed, will allow the capital to be exposed, because Dr. Rowley and the Minister of National Security supposed to be reading the Riot Act, coming and sending a serious word to, and let these young boys know they wouldn't allow our capital to be bloodshed. And up to now, weeks upon weeks, young Africans is getting killed down on Charlotte Street, on Queen Street, and nobody in concern. We're going to talk about moving pictures. It's all going well, pulling down statue, removing Duke name and Henry Street name and Sabi Street name. But we have a problem, and we have a serious disease and a serious sickness, and we is not willing to that, but we are willing to fix. So, Brother Mohammed, I didn't hear your emancipation speech or Emancipation Day, but I know you always speak on the issue of what I'm speaking about here, helping our African youth. You did not support one shot, one kill, like many Africans who went down Emancipation Day and emancipation clause, then support one shot, one kill against our own brothers and sisters. Them support that. A pregnant lady die in a victim because of one shot, one kill. Young boys, young footballers dead in Mova because of one shot, one kill. African youth. And I must sit down here and talk about emancipation. I might say emancipation because I might thinking people, but my thinking people, no, it's a slave still. But I know that nowhere in the world, no prime minister, no minister is letting the capital. So, Mohammed, as I close, I want to ask the question again. Do this government do not care about the capital being exposed to criminals and killers because they want the 1% to take over, beat them, and shit? I am asking a question here. I'm not libeling or scandaling or making no allegation against no one. I am asking, do this government do not care, not making a statement, not coming up with policies and saying that our capital, because we can see the facts and we can tell how much murders take place in the capital in the last 2 weeks in this country. More than 10. More than 10. And I am saying this. We want to know if the government do not care about the capital because they have a plan for the 1% to take over, become, and see that. But Mohammed, I thank you very much for this opportunity to speaking about the African youth where it's being targeted among themselves, amongst police, and nobody in care. So you're going down there to emancipation clause and talk about change shit and put on statue. Use a failure, always failures to the African community. And why is a set of them who I know linked with political parties was down there? I call them P&M slave catchers, was emancipation day, trying to mobilize the Africans because they have a problem with Watson Juke feeding people from Vietnam, but they ain't doing it. The P&M MPs ain't doing it. They ain't feeding their own people. They have no problem with Faris leaving 5 times, stepping outside in front of a door and telling his friend inside, hey, they have no problem with Stuart Young stepping outside, but do something. They have a problem if an African asks for a bug drain in the community. They have a problem if an African asks for a light in the community. They have a problem if an African asks for a road pitch in the community. But they have no problem. They have no problem with Stuart Young and fight because, Mohammed, you know, they watch Stuart Young as a black man. You know they watch Faris as a black man. I hear them saying that Kamala Mr. is attacking the AG. You know what these African PLM people saying? Kamala racist. I said, but how Kamala could be racist? The AG is a Hindu, Kamala is a Hindu, Kamala is a East Indian, the AG is a East Indian. I said, oh, well, once you're a PNM Indian, they paint you up, they butter you up, and it's something them watch in birth as a black man. And because I support the UNC, they watch me as a East Indian. I thank you very much.
Caller, good morning. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Good morning. I'm here having to endure. And we are talking about African people who betray. And we have a shining example. Anyways. But that is the situation that was bred into us, you know.
Of course.
And to apply it today, it's even easier because when some people get a car or a house or something, their every need has been met. Just give them a little change in their hand to get a car or some nonsense. They would just do anybody else's bidding. The fact of an African beating an African in punishment, and other Africans have to look on and see that. If you go to Brazil, there are places in Brazil where they show you all the things that they made to torture Africans. You don't want to be one part of that. You don't want that kind of torture. All these artifacts are still there. Things that they used to torture Africans. So you would do anybody's bidding because how much you're going to endure. And it's happening up to today. An African don't even like to see an African with wealth, and some of them. They want to know how you get that, why you should have that. But if anybody else have it, and they know how they get it by ill-gotten gains and ill-gotten means, and they would find nothing is wrong with that. And they just would be ready to do anybody else's bidding. So that was bred into us. And it is still happening today. It is happening today. Sad but true. We're ready to bash each other. Anyways, thank you very much, my brother.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your usual sober reflection. Caller, good morning. Caller? Yes, I am hearing you now.
Yeah, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Blessed morning.
Same to you.
I would like to say that emancipation, it should be, they should rename it African Emancipation Day. Because as some people say that certain elements were intruded into the Emancipation Day that wasn't compatible to what is going on for Africans. And now I would like to say this, for the last 40 years, we haven't really done anything to really have that standard of prosperity as others, because we are still colonized. We are still colonized. We don't have our own African history of education yet, education system. We don't have our own economy. Everything is based on the European and the American. That is what is going on. We first must get rid of the shackles of these nations holding us to ransom still. Why then? The longest river in the world, and it still has drought and people dying, livestock dying. Why then? That we still have men running down and killing women and children in Africa, and also in the Caribbean, especially in Trinidad and Tobago right now, we're running down one another with the gun. Why then, Brother David, do we emancipate our mind and make sure that love is persistent and peace is also present? This is what we need in the African diaspora and also in Africa, because, Brother David, the African Union haven't delivered up to this present day. They cannot tell us what they have done for the last 40 years in Africa to make sure that the people in Africa enjoy Africa. Because as far as I'm seeing, all foreigners are enjoying Africa. The Europeans still enjoying Africa. The Chinese come in and they enjoying Africa. The Vietnamese, the Koreans, all of them enjoying Africa. And we, the Africans, sitting on the dirt, waiting for handout, waiting for another meal. But it must stop. And it starts with us unifying and making sure that the present generation gets the result that is needed for the prosperity of Africa and Africans. Thank you, Brother David, for this time.
Thank you very much. That is a very important issue. You know, one of the things we want to touch on as well tomorrow is the fact that the way you put that across about other ethnic groups, or in particular the Europeans, you said enjoying Africa. It's so, again, it's so strategic, it's so scientific, because you will notice that Europe has been at war with each other French against the Germans, the English against the Germans, the Spanish against the Portuguese, the Italians against the rest of them. I mean, they have a history of war with each other. And then they colonized Africa. Every country in Africa was colonized, with the exception of Liberia on the west coast and Ethiopia on the east. But after the wave of independence from the late 1950s to the early 1970s, in so many of these countries, right after there was independence, there were civil wars in Africa. And a lot of these civil wars were what you call proxy wars. The civil war in Angola is probably the best example, where Cuba got involved. That was from mid-1970s to 2002, really. And you still have pockets of resistance. But basically, you have one European interest backing one group and another European interest backing another group. And there's bloodshed on the ground in Africa. The Tutsis versus the Hutus in Rwanda. European influences on either side. Conflicts in South Africa. One group is given special privilege by the whites, who are now targeted by another group who are less privileged among the same blacks. Angola, Mozambique, Namibia, where some of the worst atrocities, some of the worst genocide has taken place. Under the Germans, who even colonized the Cameroon. But so many places where there's conflict in Africa, it's proxy wars for Europeans. Communism versus capitalism. So in the Angolan Civil War, you had three groups. Two so-called communist, one so-called capitalist, two being backed by Russia, one being backed by America. So instead of them fighting against each other, two sets of Africans are fighting. It's like with the local politics here. Two sets of Africans fighting each other for other interests. White, Syrian, Chinese, Indian. But Africans fighting against Africans. So the way you make that point about who's enjoying Africa, it's so real, because along with that comes the economic advantage, the economic benefit. And trust me, beloved, once one group of us are fighting against another group of us, someone is benefiting in one way or another. Caller, good morning.
Yeah. Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
All right, yes. Good morning, Brother David Mohammed. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. That are on the line this morning. President Trinidad and Tobago Village. As normal, the topics are very nice. This one extra nice this morning because it's a reality of even the times that we're going through. Because we have an emancipation, and then we have an independence in our lives. And at the end, we have a holiday for liberation. And you start the topic nice, and you keep it going good. Especially when you reach to a point where you could link everything to crab in a barrel system. Because all the program coming down is really that eventually you don't want to unite, you don't want to associate, you don't want to organize. But it's the only thing that will give a people the privilege to be self-independent, do for self. So the whole program nice because unless we don't start to honor truth, honor the reality that we are existing. Like our others that exist in the whole world, all human existing. But there's differentiation between some human and another set of human. But as black-blooded human beings, we have to ask ourselves really truly, which many of us don't do, is where are we in this post-survival bondage? Where are we? And it's a bondage survival, a survival existence where we are the one in bondage as black-blooded humans. Why are we so want to be killing all one another, fighting with one another? When we're supposed to be putting ourselves together, which is unite, associate, and organize, and start to come up with a goal, a order, which they have taken our own. Everything has to take away from the take away spirit, they take away soul, they take away everything. But yet we need to learn. A lot of people need to understand stress. Understand that you are created a people, not just a person. Like it are two different kind of bachak in a colony. None of them do fight with one another. Everybody had their own direction. Why they integrate with it? But so, all right, I think I'm going to put myself in my own position there, although I may be integrated, I see for self. Because nobody's seeing for myself for me. And if I keep on killing myself, like we killing one another, we will never see for self. We will be in the crowd and the barracks is not inside of somebody else's fulcrum. And when they open the door, we come out with grace and we go right back in the cove because like we like it so. Right. Anyway, I said the thing, emancipation is a matter of demanding. When you demand that right, that liberty, then you promote the conscience of the reality of truth realization for self-reality. And if we're not doing that, then we will keep on going down being the slaves in the civilization that they decide to create. The only civilization I recognize before this slave civilization was the Egyptian civilization. The first civilization in the world around 3,100 BC. And it came right down. Well, it started from 4,500 BC. That is our culture as the Egyptian people who ruled almost the whole of Africa. And in coming down, it ended at 30 BC when Constantine and Alexander and all them fellas and them started coming and raid up the place like Alexandria place on the north. Yeah, there are a lot of history to really come to ourselves to realize we've been put to try to be made slave since in the thousands. Take away everything that we have, the Orisha, from who in the Congo, who from the long time they call it Rhodesia, they call it Zimbabwe, all the Kapil in South Africa. All right, I could go plenty. We have a lot. But we have to start to see ourselves. Yeah. Unite, associate, organize, talk to ourselves for a future that nobody would give us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Then he said, move on to milk. How much land must we have? How many cows must we own? How much grazing land must we have to give our people a glass of milk with every meal? How many sheep must we have? And how much grazing land must we have to...
Caller, good morning.
Yes, dear, I'll be quick. Good morning again.
Yes, good morning.
Label me, I'm a proud conspiracy theorist, huh? But why every time you can't hear the people who are calling you, so much difficulty on the phone lines?
That's strange. I wasn't experiencing that.
Yes, I wasn't hearing all the callers. You're barely hearing something grumbly soft. I can't understand. Last week was the same thing.
Yeah,
and
I remember the concern last week.
Yeah.
Different people were saying that well, some were saying they were experiencing it, others were saying they weren't.
Yes, but that is something that's happening over and over. You get an echo back and all of this kind of a thing. And as your program is finished and something else goes on, the airways are back to normal. So I don't know what is that, but I find it's very strange. Thank you again. Bye.
All right, my sister, thank you.
We have to cut down the trees and make wood to build homes. And we have to have land, and there is no compromising this.
Defending black women and black children and black babies and black men.
The truth must be recognized by the black man. But the word economics comes from the Greek economikos.
Good morning.
Yes, Brother David.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Brother David, you know, Europe, when I say Europe, I go to America, all them is the same European. You know, they are upset with some of the African leaders for not taking their side in this war against Ukraine.
Of course. Of course. And it's because, again, of Russia's history with Africa in comparison to England, France, Germany, Holland, and Spain and Portugal.
Yes, because I heard yesterday one a leader from Uganda, I think, he said, listen, when Russia came down to Cuba in 1962, America didn't allow it. They were upset about it. But now America wants to go and carry weapons close to Ukraine, close to Russia and things, and want us to side with them. You understand? Another thing they do with food, they make us believe that they are our fathers and they have to feed us. You understand what I'm saying? Make us be our fathers. Look in Rwanda, they go down there with a modified fig and the government allow it to come in there. The people are upset about it and say that they're going to feed. A lot of people down there hungry, they're going to feed them. You see, as I was telling somebody yesterday, I said, listen, they take the tins that they put in the peas they put in the tin. I used to go and wash it out. And one day I said, well, why are you washing out this thing? It don't make no sense. Because the peas already, the poison already soaked in the bean, so it don't make no sense. You understand? It's still going to the system. They make us believe that they imagine they're in a climate that can produce the food that we produce. And they are producing that food for us. They modify everything. You understand? And we have to understand that you have to feed yourself. If we used to do it before they invaded Africa, we feed ourselves, but they come now and they tell us that they have to feed us, and we depend on that. Half of thousands of miles across the ocean, if you don't get things here, you can't eat. You understand? You have land to grow things here. People have to learn to go back and plant it as small as it is, and feed yourself with something. And as I say, Brother David, long ago when you're in the house, a little child, and they say, tell us, don't be rude. Why are you shooting in the house? It's disrespectful. You understand? So we have to troops and pause so there's no confusion again. Go on.
Thank you.
Become producers and not remain consumers and employees. We must be able to extract raw materials from the earth and manufacture them into something useful for ourselves. This would create jobs in production. We must remember that without land, there is no production.
Without land, there is no production.
Yeah.
Yes. Good morning.
Yeah, Greta.
What's that, sorry?
From the victim and staring long crocodile tears. I speak about America and Israel. You see, you touch on the Palestinians.
Yeah.
And the Palestinians are in a prison. The international prison of the world is Gaza and the West Bank, because they term them terrorists, and the whole world looking on at that.
Exactly, and you can't even say anything about them.
Looking on at what's going on there, and they remove the hand from it because it's America and Israel. And 55 years now, they occupy these two pieces of land, and you see, they could go in, they could lock you up, they can leave anytime they want, they come in your way anytime they want, and see how here it goes. Are supporting Israel because this is being threatened by who? they say Palestinians are terrorists, Brother David. They have no case with this fight.
Well, check this out. Do you know, right, that right after... Caller?
Thank you very much.
Wait, caller. All right. Do you know that right after the killing of George Floyd, a member of parliament in England said, in commenting on the George Floyd killing, it was a woman. All she said was, well, the way when they killed George Floyd, they used an Israeli police tactic. So they kneeled on his neck, suffocated him, and killed him. Right, so the whole world knows that. But this member of parliament in England, in the parliament, they discussing, justice and civil rights and protests and so on. And she just makes a comment, okay, so, when they killed George Floyd, it was an Israeli police tactic. She had to resign. Imagine we in the Parliament of Trinidad and a member of Parliament says something like, well, the police used an American tactic when they went into this community or that community, and having to resign for saying that. That shows you how powerful Israel is on the world stage. That you can simply make a statement that isn't even offensive to anyone. And no matter what part of the world you are, you're made to pay the consequences. Caller, good morning. Caller.
Good morning, Brother.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Brother Mohammed, how are you doing?
Alhamdulillah, I'm great, thanks.
Thank God. Brother Mohammed, the first thing I believe in, Africa needs to identify themselves first. And then I think it could have unity and understanding within the African community, Brother Mohammed. Brother Mohammed, this is how I just look at things. There may be a little different for people, right? How come we don't say we African people and we put in, let me say, like a double person or a person who was born from two different entities and we saying them representing Africans. Something wrong with that too, Brother Mohammed. You understand? All of that needs to change because African can't be two persons at the same time.
Wait, sorry. Say that again, please.
What I said was, for instance, they would take a Dogala person, right?
Right.
Or a person who born from a white person or Chinese from African and mix intermingling, right? And then they put these people up in front and saying they representing the African community. Like a Dogala person, like for instance, I see an East Indian woman with long hair, right? Saying she representing the Rastafari thing. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. The lady who with the thing and she wants to, I can't remember her name.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
Right, and then she saying she representing Rastafari. Right? I just saying something that I'm on, and I don't know if my logic's different, But how come you could put these people in front and them representing African? Something wrong with that, Brother Mohammed. Let me be real. And then if I have this way now, like to me, people saying they representing African people, the black ones that they keep them in the back and put the brown and the colored one up in the front because like something wrong with the black one. So how we as Africans, when Africa starts from the black one, are just trying to understand, because it's all real black people, Brother Mohammed, right here in this country. Jet black. Very educated, very everything. No science, doctors, all kind of things, but they don't put this, they're not putting these black people in front because like they're too black. When we national flag saying red, white, and black, and the black just like the people they hide in. So I don't know if I am thinking wrong or whatever, and you could correct me, but that is just my belief. So they're making the black people feel that they always have to be the back or bleach the skin to reach somewhere. I think we need to change that.
My friend, sister.
Yes, brother.
So what you are referring to is what is called colorism.
That's correct.
And it's also called a pigmentocracy.
That's correct.
Now, I'm very sensitive to what you're saying, and it is for this reason. And I've been saying it from day one. I've been saying it for the last 7 or 8 years. It is for this reason that I am proud of my Prime Minister. I am proud of him for, one, he's an intelligent man. He's accomplished. He is achieved. He's the leader of government, and he is a overtly, visibly black man with a beautiful image.
And smooth skin too.
Right. Now that is my main admiration of my Prime Minister. Unfortunately, in my humble estimation, the system that he presides over is not one that prioritizes justice for us, nor does it prioritize economic empowerment for African people. But his presence there as Prime Minister is a plus for all of the young black boys in this society who are devoid of inspiration, who believe that in order to advance beyond a certain degree of achievement or accomplishment in this society, that there's a Syrian or white or light-skinned preference and advantage and privilege. And so by the fact that the image of our Prime Minister is as it is, that is a breaking of that particular stereotype.
All right, and Brother Muhammad, one last thing before I leave. That is why I believe God put him there, in a sense, to me, like Moses, to feel how the black people feeling.
Right.
You understand?
How we feeling? Okay.
How we feeling?
You know something? You and me are really on the same page about this matter. We are. But my concern, though, is the system that he presides over. But I want to thank you so much for calling in.
Operation.
We really are on the same page, I have to say, with that aspect of what you said. So, remember, tomorrow morning, Kwame Ture Center, 11 o'clock, we continue with that lecture on emancipation and liberation. Stay tuned to the Street 919 FM as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
We have never been able to do.
Not necessarily